To India Today is Rahul Srivastav for more on this. He's our national affairs editor. Rahul, absolutely horrifying development that we're covering here on India Today. The defense minister, the entire security and political establishment completely, in real time monitoring this horrifying story play out. In many ways, we're only awaiting a confirmation on the worst that has already been feared for quite a while now, but we're awaiting that statement in Parliament. When is that likely to happen, Rahul? What more can you tell us?
Shiv, having covered defense and strategic affairs for a very long time, you know how tragic this news can be and how complex the entire issue is. You have none less than the first CDS of the country who was on board that chopper which tragically crashed. And Defence Minister Mr. Rajnath Singh and the Prime Minister had entered for the cabinet meeting when the news was already trickling in. So Rajnath Singh briefed the Prime Minister on whatever information was available, and the Prime Minister requested him that he should step out and coordinate all the effort and do what is needful. And Rajnath Singh had to leave the cabinet meeting midway, and he has gone back. Now, what we are looking at is a scenario in which some sources are saying that the CDS could have been extricated from the fire, taken for a medical emergency to a medical institute. Now, in that scenario, what we also told that some burn experts were also sent out. Now, remember that aviation fuel is a highly combustible fuel, and the manner in which the helicopter caught fire, it was a very, very serious fire for the occupants. With already 11 deaths confirmed, the Defence Ministry is treading extremely carefully on it. And that is why all information will be collated, proper health bulletins will be taken, and then only the Defence Minister will form a complete picture, discuss it with the Prime Minister, and then before announcing it outside Parliament, that's what convention is, that any announcement of such an event or decision has to be done inside Parliament houses when the Parliament is in session. And that's why there is a delay. What we are told that the Defence Ministry is right now on the hotline, collating all the information which is possible and perhaps presenting the final picture. And we'll have to wait, I think, for the final word from the Defence Minister when he comes to Parliament.
That's right. He's in South Block. He's in his room right now in South Block, the first floor of South Block. In the next few minutes, we understand he will be reaching Parliament. Home Minister Amit Shah has also already reached Parliament. There is no bigger development in the country right now. The Air Force Chief is on his way to Tamil Nadu. The Home Minister is in Parliament. The Prime Minister will be in Parliament as well for this statement from Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. The Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal Vivek Ram Chaudhary, has made a dash to Coonoor in Tamil Nadu. He'll be reaching there in a few hours from now, where he will personally go to the crash site, we are given to believe, to make an inspection for himself after what has been an absolutely monumental tragedy involving General Bipin Rawat, his family and other military personnel, 14 of whom were on board this ill-fated Mi-17 V5 helicopter of the Indian Air Force that took off from Sulur Air Force Base in Tamil Nadu and was on its way to Wellington in the Nilgiri Hills nearby, where Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat was to deliver a lecture at the Defence Services Staff College. A more horrifying, more sorrowful, disastrous turn of events cannot be imagined at this time. I also want to share with all of our viewers that we will not be reporting any other story today but this one. So right through the day, in case you believe you want to watch something else, that's your prerogative. But this is our big story, and we will only be reporting this, and we will only be bringing you factual information on this. We're getting a huge number of questions and queries from families of defense personnel about what the information we have is, and I would like to appeal to all of those who are sending us queries, urgent messages and questions on social media, calling our numbers, sending us direct messages, that we will, I promise you, we will report everything in a most responsible manner here on India Today. So when we hear it, we will filter it, we will corroborate it, we will confirm it, and then you will hear about it first. Okay, let's just hear one of the eyewitness accounts that has come in from the ground in Coonoor.
என்னொன்று பிளேனு ஹெலிகாப்டர் அப்படி வந்துச்சு. ஒரே சவுண்டு, கருகுமுன்னு சவுண்டு வந்தோடனே கீழே ஒரு மரத்தில் அடிபட்டு வரையிலேயே நெருப்பில் வந்துச்சு. நெருப்பில் வந்தோடனே இங்கே ஒரு பெரிய மரம் இருக்குது. அந்த மரத்தில் வந்து அடிபட்டோன்னே கீழே அப்படியே தட்டார்னு விழுந்தோடனே புகை வந்தோடனே ஒரே தீ பிடிச்ச உடனே நான் என்னடா தீ பிடின்னு பக்கத்து விட்டு பையனை நான் கூப்பிட்டோன்னே அந்த பையன் என்ன செஞ்சாப்புல வந்து பார்த்துட்டு ஃபயர் சர்வீஸுக்கு போலீஸுக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ணோன்னே ஒருத்தர் எரிஞ்சு அப்படியே அந்த ஒருத்தர் சாயுதார். மற்றவங்கெல்லாம் நம்ம வரக்குள்ளேயே பொத்துன்னு விழுகுறாங்க.
Rahul Srivastava continues to be with us. Rahul, what would be happening in government right now? Can you give us a picture of where things are at? Parliament is in session. Obviously, this has come as an enormous jolt to the entire security and political system right now. The Home Minister has reached Parliament. The Defence Minister will be reaching shortly to make his statement. The Prime Minister, I'm guessing, will also be there. What happens at times like this, at times of terrible tragedy of this kind? How does the entire system come together?
Shiv, the Prime Minister has been briefed, and it is the Prime Minister's call that how the thing moves forward. What we are told that the entire system revolves around the Defence Minister right now. As we speak, I just got a message that a senior MOD, Ministry of Defence officials are meeting right now. The Defence Minister will be briefed after that, and the Defence Minister will collate a picture, final picture. He's monitoring it, he's coordinating it, he's also getting information over relief and rescue, the status of doctors, the health bulletins of those who have been injured, and after that he will be speaking to the Prime Minister, and then the Prime Minister will discuss the statement to be made. Remember, Shiv, these are very serious issues here. Right now, if everybody realizes that in our northern borders there is friction, on our western border there is friction, and we are talking about the accident involves one of the top defense military officials of the country, the first CDS, and that is why, given the seriousness of the situation, the government is moving with extreme caution. Even as we speak, what we are told that a lot of information has come in, and senior Ministry of Defence officials are holding a meeting, and after that Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will be briefed.
Will be making that statement in Parliament in a moment from now. All of the hotlines are active right now between the different nodes of government, all of it attuned towards responding to this story, conveying this story to the public, because this is a story of monumental tragedy, ladies and gentlemen. The person involved in this accident is Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat, who happens to be the country's first Chief of Defence Staff and the highest ranked serving military official in the country. He was with his family. His wife Madhulika Rawat was also on that helicopter which has crashed. They had flown from Delhi to Sulur in Tamil Nadu. It's about almost a 3-hour flight. He landed in Sulur this morning, got into an Indian Air Force Mi-17 V5 helicopter and flew northwest from Sulur towards Wellington in western Tamil Nadu. It's nestled in the Nilgiri Hills, where he was supposed to make a lecture at the Defence Services Staff College when this accident has taken place. There are more images coming in from the accident site. Some of them are too horrifying to put on air, so we will not be doing that. There are families watching. There are families of many of the other personnel who we've not named who are also watching at this point of time. So rest assured, here on India Today, you will only get factual information. So at this time, just to paint you a national picture of where those monitoring this tragedy are, the Prime Minister is in Delhi, the Defence Minister is in Delhi, National Security Advisor and Home Minister are also in Delhi. The Air Chief Marshal Vivek Ram Chaudhary has already left Delhi, and he's heading towards Coonoor in Tamil Nadu, where he will also be taking the same sort of flight path, we understand. He'll be landing in Sulur and then taking a helicopter to Coonoor, where this accident has taken place. It was a Indian Air Force Mi-17 V5 helicopter that had gone down in this manner. Okay, I'm just going to check if we still have Amitav Ranjan with us. Okay, Amitav Ranjan is not with us. We'll try and get him back in just a moment from now. The Chief of Defence Staff was to deliver a lecture at the Wellington Defence Services Staff College, or DSSC. It's a place where officers go for their higher studies while they're in service. Very prestigious institution, a place where the Chief of Defence Staff has been many times. He's delivered lecture there. There was nothing out of the ordinary about this flight. The Mi-17 V5 is a sturdy, reliable helicopter. Some of the best pilots in the world here in India fly these helicopters, and this has just taken place. It's a monumental tragedy. I can tell you that I can also tell you that the national media in Pakistan, across the country, their ears have perked up. They're already covering the story. Just to tell all of my friends on social media and elsewhere that there will be a lot of rumors, there will be a lot of propaganda from across the borders. Please don't pay attention to all of it. This is India's national tragedy. We must digest this and report this in the way that we do here, with dignity, with accuracy, and a total commitment to the truth. So we don't have to pay attention to vermin and people trying to spread propaganda or plant theories in people's minds. This was an accident that has taken place in the hills of Tamil Nadu, and we will arrive at the truth, and we will pay tribute to those who've lost their lives in this tragedy. 11 people have perished. That is a formal confirmation. That number is compared to the 14 people who were on board that helicopter, including the Chief of Defence Staff and his wife, Madhulika Rawat. Let's listen into the Tamil Nadu Forest Minister. Tamil Nadu Forest Minister spoke a short while ago as well. Let's listen into him.
இப்பொழுது இந்த பாதிப்பில் வந்து 14 பேரும் யாரும் உயிரோடு இருப்பதற்கு அது வந்து தெரியல. இப்போ 2 பேர் உயிரோடு வந்து அனுப்பியிருக்காங்க, ஹாஸ்பிட்டல் அனுப்பியிருக்காங்க. அவங்களும் ரொம்ப சீரியஸ்ன்னு சொல்கிறாங்க. இப்போ மீறி 5 பேர் அங்கே டெத் ஆகிருக்கு ஏற்கனவே. இங்கே 7 பாடி வந்து உள்ள மாட்டிருக்கு. இப்போ மக்கள் வந்து எடுப்பதற்கு முயற்சி செய்து கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள். மிலிட்ரியில் வந்து இராணுவத்தினர் வந்து நிறைய பேர் வந்திருக்காங்க. பொதுமக்களும் நிறைய உதவி செய்கிறாங்க. இந்த பக்கத்தில் இருந்து தண்ணீரை கொண்டு வருவதற்கும் மக்கள் உதவி செய்து கொண்டிருக்கிறாங்க.
Sneha Mordani is with me live to talk us over a steady stream of images that are coming in from Coonoor at this point of time. Sneha, an absolute tragedy. This helicopter is completely destroyed. There's virtually nothing left to work with. You can barely see the remains of this helicopter. Very distressing images. Take us through what we have.
Yes, absolutely, Shiv. Also to tell our viewers first about the flight path that had been taken by this particular ill-fated chopper today. Getting you more details on this. In fact, General Bipin Rawat took off today from Delhi along with his wife and others. The CDS's chopper's destination was Sulu
in mammoth proportion, and General Bipin Rawat, he is the first Chief of Defence Staff. There you can see the visuals of the Defence Minister as he meets family members, whosoever is present in the house. There have been certain relatives coming in at 5 Kamraj Lane, and it is a very, very sorry situation as far as the entire incident is concerned, with the security keeping a strict vigil outside the residence. This is Mosmi Singh in Delhi for India Today.
Sneha, take us through what you were showing us.
Yes, in fact, Shiv, to tell our viewers once again about the flight path that we were talking about that was taken essentially by General Bipin Rawat and his wife this morning. They left from Delhi. We'll get that graphics up also for our viewers about this entire track, the flight path essentially. The chopper, in fact, travelled, the destination was Sulur in Tamil Nadu. Sulur was actually the stopover. After Sulur, he was on his way to the Wellington Defence Base, and that, before he reached there, is where the chopper essentially crashed. That, of course, is the flight path that had been taken by the CDS. We'll get this graphics up also for our viewers in just a bit from now. Shiv.
Air Force, former Air Force Mi-17 pilot continues to be with us on the story. I want to continue to bring him in on this story because this is a developing story, and the Air Force Chief has already left. Mr. Ranjan, the Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal Chaudhary, has left for the crash site right now. He's already taken off, we're given to believe, from Delhi, and he'll be heading towards the crash site. Could you just, for the benefit of our viewers, explain. Obviously this is a top-level tragedy that has taken place. It's an Indian Air Force helicopter that has taken place. What would the Indian Air Force chief do while on site, sir?
Okay, to start off with, Indian Air Force has got a very well-oiled mechanism as far as accident investigation is concerned. So they are the first responders who would be reaching the site, and the Air Force chief personally overseeing this accident investigation is a phenomenal thing. It conveys as to what is the importance and what monumental tragedy are we talking about today and whatever has happened today. So it's something which doesn't happen, and something happening like this, the Air Force chief's getting Air Force chief's involvement speaks volumes about his professionalism and the professionalism of the Air Force per se.
Absolutely, it shows the professionalism of the Air Force. The Air Force chief, they've taken this this grave tragedy extremely seriously as the Air Force chief lands over there. Once he reaches there, sir, who are all the personnel that he would be speaking to? I just want to get into the detail of this because, this is a territory that many of our viewers might find unfamiliar. So could you just tell us step by step what the Air Force chief would do once he reaches Sulur and then Coonoor, sir?
As he reaches Sulur, he would most probably be the commander-in-chief of the Southern Air Command would be available there, who would brief him about the incident after having had taken all the correct input from the base commander of Sulur. That would be the logical way of going about it. And then he would probably be meeting the chief engineer and the chief operations officer of the base before he comes out with anything. That is the correct procedure of going about it. And since the captain of the helicopter was the commanding officer of the unit, which was flying General Bipin Rawat. So his number 2 would be roped in to throw some more light on the history of this aircraft per se. And the base commander would obviously be present, and he would be briefing the commander-in-chief, who would in turn be briefing the chief of air staff.
Okay. So that's the kind of briefing that the Indian Air Force would show. Also demonstrates a great deal of professionalism by the Indian Air Force chief to actually be there personally to monitor the beginning of what is going to be one of the gravest, most serious air accident investigations in India's history. The country's top military officer, the Chief of Defence Staff, involved in a fatal accident. His wife was also on board that helicopter. The Defence Minister will be making a statement in Parliament in a very short while from now. Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat was in Delhi last evening. He took part in a curtain raiser event of the Panex 21 at the DRDO Bhavan. He was accompanied by the Chief of the Army Staff. This was a multi-nation disaster management exercise with a focus on providing relief. During this event last evening, the Chief of Defence Staff spoke at length on the importance of synergy in the armed forces. Take a look at his public comments last evening.
It is important for us in uniform, men and women in uniform, to see how best we can support our nations. During COVID-19, every country in the world depended on the armed forces to provide some kind of support, not just to their own people, not just to their own veterans, but to reach out to the civilian population and see how best they could come in their support.
Mr. Rajnath Singh is at the residence of Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat in the national capital. India Today's Mausami Singh is reporting from there. In a moment, I'll just take you across to her live. General Bipin Rawat and his wife Madhulika Rawat were both on board the helicopter that has crashed, and we are fearing the worst. But that information will only come out in the form of a statement from Defence Minister Rajnath Singh when he makes it in Parliament in a very short while from now. That information is still being collated. All of that information will be on your screens in just a moment from now. Fresh images coming to you from the ground in Coonoor near the crash site. Fresh images coming to you from the ground near the crash site where more disaster response personnel have arrived on site to take charge of this entire situation. We'll be getting you images of Defence Minister. There he is. Defence Minister arriving at the Chief of Defence Staff's residence in the national capital. And we do have a confirmation that from the Chief of Defence Staff's residence, the Defence Minister will be heading towards Parliament, where he will be making that statement to awaiting members of the House. Here's India Today's Mosami reporting from right outside the Chief of Defence Staff's residence, where the Defence Minister has just arrived.
Here outside 5 Kamraj Lane, that is the residence of General Bipin Rawat. And we'll ask Sanjeev if he can pan and show the visuals of the Defence Minister as he gets down the car. A strict security cordon is being maintained right here outside the residence to ensure that there is no chaos. But definitely, this.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is at the Chief of Defence Staff's residence in the national capital. The Prime Minister is in the PMO right now. Home Minister Amit Shah has reached Parliament. The National Security Advisor is also monitoring the situation. Army Chief General Manoj Mukund Naravane is also in the national capital and is in touch with his men on the ground. Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal Vivek Ram Chaudhary has headed towards Sulur. He will be taking a flight from there to Coonoor to personally inspect the crash site and begin the crash investigation into this monumental tragedy. We have a ground report coming in just a couple of moments from now. We will also have Mosami Singh. Mosami Singh is right outside the Chief of Defence Staff's residence in the national capital. Mosami, absolutely horrifying day. The Defence Minister is inside the Chief of Defence Staff's residence. Take us through what's happening right now. Is he going to be heading to Parliament after that?
Absolutely, Shiv, a tragic moment, a tragedy of enormous proportions, and we're outside 5 Kamraj Marg, that is the residence of General Bipin Rawat. Let me tell you, he's just, the Defence Minister has just left the residence of General Bipin Rawat, and we would expect that a statement in the Lok Sabha would be coming shortly, because he was supposed to give that statement at about 3:30 p.m. but he did break his journey to the Parliament when he came visiting here, in fact expressing his solidarity. And in this moment of extreme tragedy, we've seen that a lot of visitors are pouring in inside, coming to visit and offer their support here. But I was in the Parliament, Shiv, and all the MPs were actually very shocked and were praying for General Bipin Rawat and all those who were in that Air Force helicopter. So Rajnath Singh did come and stay here for about 5 minutes, a brief visit, perhaps came to in fact meet General's daughter. Here you can see a strict security cordon is what we see, and visitors in fact coming, officials coming, even as the government is in huddle. We have seen a stream of visitors come inside General Bipin Rawat's house, and perhaps the Defence Minister would be giving a statement of facts of the incident. And in the Lok Sabha, there were many MPs who were waiting to know about the well-being of the Chief of Defence Staff. So really, shocking news that is unfolding, and perhaps this residence would see a stream of visitors for some time now, because everybody would be hoping for the well-being of of General Bipin Rawat. Shiv.
I mean, there are truly no words. There are truly no words to describe, how this story has been unfolding. Initially, it was believed to be a small accident, but as you can see, it is diametrically the opposite of that. It's very possible that there are no survivors in this accident, but that is a confirmation that will only come from the Defence Minister when he makes that statement in Parliament in a very short while from now. Mausami, is there any confirmation on that about the Defence Minister on when he's going to be going to Parliament and making that statement?
So we do know, Shiv, that he was in a huddle in South Block, meeting top officials, trying to find out the details of the incident, and of course about the inquiring about the well-being of those and if there were any survivors. And thereafter, the Defence Minister stopped by at the residence of General Bipin Rawat. His wife also travelling. His daughter perhaps is in the house, and he came to meet her. And thereafter, of course, he would be giving whatever information that he has got to the daughter as well. And then right now, 3:30 was the time that was slotted. So any time from now in the Lok Sabha, we could perhaps come to know more about the exact number of survivors. Everybody in the country would be praying for General Bipin Rawat and all those who were travelling in that helicopter. And it is a very unfortunate incident because there was shock and dismay, not only in social media but even in the Parliament. The MPs were asking me again and again whether General Bipin Rawat, his wife, all the other officials, the security personnel who were travelling did survive. And with the kind of incident that has really happened, the intensity and the crash, it is a gory incident. One would have to wait for a factual confirmation about how many people have been able to survive. But I can tell you that the entire country is praying for the Chief of Defence Staff, Shiv.
I mean, prayers are not going to be enough given what we're hearing from the site, but our prayers are with the families of the Chief of Defence Staff and the other personnel on board the helicopter, the group captain and the squadron leader, the two pilots of the Indian Air Force who were flying that helicopter. This is an unspeakable day. It's an unspeakable day, and we are awaiting a statement from the Defence Minister. We are going to very respectfully follow all official protocols on this story, given the implications and how serious and how grave this is as far as the families of the defence personnel are concerned. I want to also bring onto our coverage Colonel S. Dini. He's a very well-known Army defence expert. Air Marshal P.K. Barbura, privileged to have him on our coverage on this very sad day. He's former Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Eastern Air Command. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being with me. I wish you were on our show in better circumstances, but a worse day cannot be imagined, sirs. Air Marshal Barbura, to you first, sir. You are an aviator, an experienced Air Force man. You know what the risks are in military aviation, and it appears, sir, that something very catastrophic went wrong for the crew of that Mi-17 V5 helicopter that crashed in the mountains of Tamil Nadu, sir.
Well, firstly, it's a very tragic event, and my condolences to the family members of all those either injured or fatally injured. Secondly, there are 3 or 4 reasons why a helicopter can crash. One is a technical fault. Next is that either the weather means all of a sudden clamped down and couldn't take it, which I really doubt if the pilots would have taken the chance with the VIP on board. The third is, please understand, and the public must understand, even the space shuttle crashed, which cost billions of dollars. all safety margins taken, but they crashed. So anything mechanical, the probability of having one incident over a long period of time is nothing to be surprised about. But I can tell you about the Mi-17. We have flown it for the last 40 years plus.
Yes, sir.
A very, very, very safe aircraft. It's the world's most used aircraft at the moment. And something obviously has happened, which I don't know what.